Is anybody here sick of these legacy movies yet? Because if they're anything like this movie was, I don't think I'll ever get sick of them. Top Gun Maverick once again stars Tom Cruise as our titular character, and this is the long-awaited sequel 36 years in the making to the original crowd pleaser from 1986. Which, just a reminder, I have reviewed already on the channel in the hype up for this, and let me just say, hearing all the buzz about this film, I was super excited to see this. But what's our premise? Maverick is basically back where he belongs, pushing the envelope as a courageous test pilot and dodging the advancement in rank that would ground him. Wow. So he basically stays a captain and never really gets promoted to admiral, which is shocking. Maverick isn't treated like some sort of messiah or anything like that. He's kind of treated like garbage, a lost relic. No, he comes in and he's kind of frowned upon as someone who never got a promotion from captain because he didn't want it. And we actually get to see Maverick teach a detachment of graduates for a special assignment. All the while, Maverick must confront his deepest fears and the ghosts of his past, including the death of his best friend Goose. This culminates in a riveting mission that demands the ultimate sacrifice from those who choose to fly it. And I promise, this review is not going to get too deep into spoilers or anything like that, but this film really surprised me. As a matter of fact, I had a very similar feeling to this movie when I walked out of Blade Runner 2049 5 years ago. Wasn't really expecting much out of that sequel because the first one is already a classic, and after I sat through Top Gun Maverick, I looked at my brother who saw the movie with me, and I was like, that was better than the original. And I can't believe I'm saying that. This is coming from someone who adores the original. Yeah, it's not a perfect movie by any stretch. It is incredibly cheesy, but I can't help but have fun watching that original Top Gun, and let me tell you, I cannot wait to rewatch Maverick. I want to go back to the theater right now and see it once again after recording this. This movie's amazing. I am so happy saying that as someone who is expecting absolutely nothing to come out of this movie. This was directed by Joseph Kosinski, who, if that name doesn't sound familiar, he brought you this underrated gem, Only the Brave. Such a great film. I don't see enough people talking about this. But this film is directed in a way that is so incredibly in your face. Kosinski directs this action in such a remarkable way. This feels like a film that was made for the theater. I would honestly, personally recommend seeing this on the biggest possible screen, preferably in IMAX, with the biggest possible speakers you could possibly imagine, so that when those planes race into the frame, and there's so many creative shots here. The cinematography by Claudio Miranda is stellar, but even just how these planes come into the shots and how they're flying around over these beautiful mountain landscapes, it sucked me in. Top Gun Maverick is one of the most immersive theatrical experiences you will have all year long, while also seeping with nostalgic vibes. This is what a legacy movie should do. Introduce a lot of brand new, riveting characters while also paying glowing tribute to the old. And nowhere is that more prevalent than the soundtrack. As soon as the opening titles came into this film, and as soon as the first song blared over those speakers, I had the biggest grin on my face. I had the stupidest shit-eating grin, guys. Like, I could not believe what I was hearing. And I feel like I should also talk about the song from Lady Gaga called Hold My Hand, which honestly is bound to win Best Original Song at the Oscars once it's all said and done. And I did not want to listen to this song until I saw the movie. I heard all the hype about it, but the radio stations just couldn't help themselves. They started playing the song. I loved it. The placement of the song within the actual movie and the story itself is so sweet. And I love the placement of it initially, where you sort of hear it faded in the background playing on a jukebox, but then once it's blaring over the speakers, just goosebumps up and down my body. Tom Cruise in this film is absolutely magnificent once again as Maverick. I think he really captured the essence of what made him so likable in the original film. He's certainly an arrogant ass, but there's just so much charm behind this character that you just can't help but root for him. You don't care that he's arrogant. You don't care that he has an ego, because you want to see him get the job done and you want to see him hunt these enemies down. And you certainly get that in spades. The action, like I said, Joseph Kosinski directs the out of those action sequences. But to me, the most interesting elements of Top Gun Maverick are where we actually get to see Tom Cruise as Maverick teach people. And as John Hamm's character states, by the way, John Hamm is excellent in this film as well. He kind of plays your supervisor in a way where he's kind of overlooking Tom Cruise's lessons to make sure they're not too reckless, which of course they are, and it leads to some amazing comedy. But the scenes where they're actually at the school in San Diego are where the movie really kicked into high gear for me. And we do get to meet a lot of super fun and quirky pilots coming up in the rankings here. Coyote is a very fun character. Fanboy is such a fun code name. And then you have Hangman. He's the Iceman of this generation, although I'm assuming that he got his nickname from AEW's current world champion. And that brings me into another super subtle element that I don't really hear enough people talking about. The production design of this film is so in the know, and it just feels like a movie that was made for a new generation. Just to give you an example, when you see Maverick flying around, you have his old-style 1980s helmet that as soon as you saw him in, you knew shit was about to go down. But all these new pilots have such colorful designs on their helmets. I think the filmmakers really had a blast with this film. As much as I did, Tom Cruise looked like he was having the time of his life playing this character again. I was so happy for him. But I want to talk about Miles Teller real quick. When I first saw a teaser trailer for this, I was like, okay, you have Miles Teller in here. He was great in Whiplash, but his acting career has pretty much been hit or miss since then. Him as Reed Richards didn't exactly fit. But this is sort of a mild spoiler for those of you who haven't seen the final trailer yet. His character is basically the son of Maverick's deceased best friend, Goose. And there is so much emotional tension between those two. I couldn't help but be enraptured in Miles Teller's performance, who I feel like this has been his best work since Whiplash itself. He was vulnerable, he was intense, he was excited, he was fun. So much range that he got to explore with this film, and I mean, there were a couple of scenes, especially towards the end of this film, that him and Maverick share. It had me in tears. That's what a legacy movie is supposed to do. It's supposed to really hit you close to home. It's supposed to hit your nostalgia really hard. But it also has that riveting new character that you just couldn't help but be hooked to. And Rooster, as Miles Teller's codename would be, was that character. Speaking of tear-jerking, God, do I want to talk about this? Alright, yeah, it, I'll talk about it. Alright, yep, talked about everything else for the most part that I loved about this film, so man, I might as well talk about Val Kilmer. Seeing him as Iceman in the brief moments that we get out of him, oh god, guys, like, I couldn't contain myself. It was so amazing. Top Gun Maverick really is a perfect way to kick off the summer blockbuster season, if Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness already didn't do that. I certainly think Maverick is one of the best movies of the year. It's not a movie without its flaws, though. I do have a couple of slight nitpicks with Top Gun Maverick. I know a lot of people really love this film, and they say it's their favorite of the year. I am right there with you. It's one of my personal favorites. I was enraptured in the story. I was riveted in the action sequences. It's a beautiful movie to look at. And much like the first Top Gun, it's got one of my favorite soundtracks in any movie ever. But I do have a few small issues with the movie that I feel like could have propelled it to A+ masterpiece action movie status. First of all, there's a dozen up-and-coming pilots at this Top Gun class that Maverick is teaching. And your main focuses are basically Rooster and Hangman, and that dynamic you've pretty much already seen before in the original Top Gun. It's pretty much a friendly rivalry, and there's so many other interesting characters that I just wanted more time for the movie to flesh them out a little bit. And I'll admit, I was kind of concerned that there were gonna be too many villainous characters in this. I was actually very worried as soon as I saw Hangman and his arrogant mug popping into the frame and being like, oh, I'm better than everybody else. I was like, you're gonna be the bad guy within the team, aren't you? And I was also kind of worried that Ed Harris's character, who I didn't even mention was in this film, he basically disappears after the first act of this film, which on one hand, it's kind of baffling that that's his only scene because Ed Harris is a brilliant actor, but at the same time, his character, I feel like, would have dragged the story down if he were overexposed, because he's definitely not the nicest guy in the world. And he is an overlooming presence here and there, but by the end of the film, again, not to spoil anything, very similar to the first Top Gun, you are reminded that this is a team. There shouldn't be much infighting between them. Aside from a couple of small and intense scenes that certain characters share here and there, there's some infighting going on in the classes, but once it's time to fight the enemy, they're all one team. And this movie does not forget that. Yeah, speaking of forgettable, I mean, okay, the romance in Top Gun was super sweet. Maverick introduces us to Jennifer Connelly as Penny, who is Maverick's brand new love interest, and I don't really know what to think about her. Jennifer Connelly is fantastic in this movie. I thought her chemistry with Tom Cruise was super sweet, but in the back of my mind, I was like, she's being shoehorned into this. Tom Cruise already had a love interest in the first Top Gun. And of course, I understand reasonings for actors from the original not wanting to return to the legacy films, as it were. But to me, it just felt like that part of the story was a little bit too forced. And it'll take you a second to warm up to Jennifer Connelly's presence in the film, once you kind of see past the fact that this is a new love interest for Maverick. And perhaps the biggest thing that I want to talk about with Maverick is this. There's a lot of legacy movies out there now. The Scream movie from earlier this year, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and that's just to name a few. And I feel like once you sort of see the formula of a legacy movie, you can't really unsee it. There were so many elements of Top Gun Maverick that reminded me of the first Creed film from 2015. And I adore Creed. I think that's Sylvester Stallone's best performance he's ever given. But when you look at Top Gun Maverick, one of the biggest things that the script focuses on is the teacher-student dynamic here. Tom Cruise and Miles Teller share excellent chemistry, just like Stallone did with Michael B. Jordan, but you sort of kind of get the idea of where that relationship is going as soon as you get into it. But alas, I won't have much of a problem with this, because if it's done well, I'm gonna be riveted. And Joseph Kosinski and his team should be very, very proud of the work they put into Top Gun Maverick. I think this is one of the best movies of the entire year. I highly recommend that you guys see this on the biggest screen possible. I'm going to give Top Gun Maverick an A. This is how you should do a legacy movie. Anybody who's looking into doing a legacy movie in the future, any aspiring filmmakers, take some notes when you watch this film. And again, this is coming from someone who adores the 80s action cheese of the original Top Gun. I feel like this movie corrects the lack of emotional depth that the first Top Gun had, because like I said, there were a few points where I was in tears. And guys, if you've seen Top Gun Maverick already, if you're looking forward to seeing it, definitely let me know what you thought in the comment section below, because I feel like this is going to be topping a lot of people's best of the year lists. And I want to see where it sits for you guys. And I want to keep seeing you guys back here on a regular basis. If you're a new viewer over here, do consider smashing that subscribe button and that notification bell as hard as you possibly can. You all are invited to the party. Feel free to hit that like button on your way out the door. That would all be tremendous help, my friends. And it's going to be a busy summer season. I am so looking forward to continuing to talk all brand new things, movies, and entertainment with you guys going into the month of June. Holy hell, how is it already June? But guys, y'all are the best. Look forward to more reviews very soon. And with all that being said, back talk commence!